So Tna Impact took place once again in Orlando, Florida. The show starts with rock star Dud. He introduces Dixie Carter and she comes to the ring. Dixie says that Magnus is the right person to lead the company as champion. And even though Jeff Hardy was the preferred choice, Magnus is the man that fans should admire and strive to be like. She says that she has an announcement to make about something that is happening next week. But then Jeff Hardy comes to the ring, limping. Dixie wants to know why Hardy is there because he was the guy who lost. Hardy says that he's there because he cares about the creature mob that follows him. He says that Rockstar Dud will regret pushing him off the ladder and that he has something to say. Dud tells Hardy that he's invading Dixie's time in the ring and that he had better leave. He lightly slaps Hardy's face, telling him that it'll be up to him as to whether Hardy can talk next week. Hardy grabs Dud by the throat, forces him to the corner, and holds him down. He turns back toward Dixie, saying that he has to talk. Ethan Carter III appears and hits Hardy from behind, sending him out of the ring. Dixie is about to make her announcement when Sting comes to the ring. As Sting enters, Ethan and Dud bail. Sting says that he has had it with privileged Richies being able to have their way without any ramifications. He demands a match with Ethan, but then after questioning Rockstar Dud's purpose of being in TNA, he says that he wants a match pitting himself and Hardy versus Ethan and Dud. Dixie says that she's not going to give Sting the match, but Sting says that the fans want it. Dixie doesn't care if the fans want the match, but then she tells Sting that she wants Ethan and Dud to silence him and Hardy, so she makes the same match that Sting wanted, the same match that she said wasn't going to happen. Sting and Hardy leave, and Dixie tries to make her announcement as production ignores her request to shut her lame theme music off. After the commercial break, Dixie is still in the ring trying to make her announcement, and she is interrupted again by Gunner, who comes to the ring carrying his Feast or Fired briefcase and accompanied by some incredibly bad generic rock music. I could find a high school kid with his own band that can come up with something better than that. Gunner should have some knock you into next week music, not something that sounded like it was downloaded from a Music Tools website. Gunner tells Dixie that what he has to say has a higher priority. He wants to use up his world title shot that he earned in Feast or Fired and wrestle Magnus for the belt on the show. Dixie tells him that Magnus is in the UK celebrating his title victory and that he'll have to wait. She tries to make her announcement, but Gunner pushes her mic down. He tells her to tell Magnus to prepare for him, but she brushes him off and makes another attempt at her announcement. However, James Storm comes to the ring. Storm says that since Gunner keeps talking about what he deserves, Gunner should give him what he deserves. He says that Gunner interfered in his Florida death match with Robert Roode and didn't allow him to settle a situation on his own. Gunner reminds him that he was beaten up by Roode in a bar and came close to being dumped on barbed wire in the match. He says that he caused the match to be stopped because that's what a friend does. Storm accuses Gunner of being the one that told Roode what bar Storm would be in on what night, thus leading to the attack. He challenges Gunner to a match with the world title shot on the line. Of course, Dixie has to hear the match come out of her mouth in order for it to be official. That's twice now. Dixie says that she will wait until later to make her announcement. Another long and fairly painful opening segment. It's been 3 months and Dixie Carter still doesn't know how to engage with the audience in order to get legit heat. Listen! Listen, people! Listen! You don't tell the fans to be quiet so they can listen to you. I still hear people say, oh, she needs more time. How much more time does she need? 3 months. It's been 3 months. Rockstar Dud sucked once again, but I thought that Hardy and Sting were fairly good, considering that there wasn't much to work with anyway. The Gunner Storm confrontation was okay, and it would lead to a match that didn't make any sense. James Storm versus Gunner, with the world title shot briefcase on the line. Okay match. The match ends with Gunner delivering a vertical suplex on Storm. He goes for the pin, but Storm kicks out. Gunner applies a chin lock. Storm makes it to his feet, but Gunner pushes him into the corner. Gunner throws a punch, but Storm throws his own punch that allows him to come out of the corner. The two engage in an exchange of punches, but then Gunner spears Storm through the ropes, causing both of them to end up outside the ring. As Storm runs Gunner's head into the ring steps, the referee completes a very quick 10 count and calls for the bell. The match ends in a double countout. Storm and Gunner start brawling outside the ring. The ref mob tries unsuccessfully to break it up, and Storm and Gunner take their party to the back. As I said earlier, this match should have never taken place. Why would TNA have Storm and Gunner face each other when a heel turn has not taken place? This match was billed as two friends facing off, but how can that be when Storm accused Gunner of telling Rude what bar he would be at on a certain night? The first match between these two should have been saved until one of them officially turns heel. The other thing is that Gunner's world title shot was on the line. This lessens the value of having the feast or fired match. If a wrestler doesn't grab a briefcase during the match, then he misses his chance to earn a title shot. He shouldn't gain an opportunity to get the briefcase later. What is the point of having a wrestler fight to get a briefcase if he can simply challenge someone who earned the briefcase at a later time? It defeats the purpose. Also, this match ensured that there would be no clean finish. Storm wasn't going to win, otherwise he would have earned the briefcase in the Feast or Fired match. Gunner's not going to win clean because it would have spoiled a clear-cut winner for a program that hasn't officially begun. Having this match at this time with that stipulation didn't make sense. So then we see Brooke Tessmacher and Bully Ray backstage. Tessmacher tells Bully Ray that she's been trying to contact him and wants to know why he's in his current mode. He says nothing. Tessmacher says that if he doesn't want to be with her anymore, she's going to go to the ring to tell everyone things about him that they don't know. As she leaves, Bully Ray calls her name and warns her not to do that. She walks away. So then we see the first segment of The Rise of Magnus. Magnus shuns those who say that he has not earned the spot that he's in now, and makes reference to the different character pushes that he received because of various creative changes backstage. He talks about his quote-unquote gladiator stint, his time with the British invasion, and teaming up with Samoa Joe. Magnus sends fire at Hogan by saying that Hogan saw him as the future of the company, just not as long as Hogan was around. He says that when he was attacked by Aces and Eights, that made people see that he was a big deal. So then we see Brooke Tessmacher come to the ring. Tessmacher says that she hasn't had any contact from Bully Ray all this time because she feels that he blames her for not getting the hammer in his hands, thus causing him to lose the match that broke up the club. Tessmacher says that it wasn't her fault and tells Bully Ray to come out and confirm that. Bully Ray comes to the ring. Tessmacher grabs his hand and wants to know why he's been acting the way he has. She says that they can repair their relationship and that neither one of them was responsible for the breakup of Aces and Eights. Bully Ray aggressively pulls his hand away and walks to the corner, turning his back to her. He begins walking around the ring, and as he does, Tessmacher tells him that she's not his bitch and that he told her to get the hammer to him. She says that Bully Ray has obliterated everything meaningful to him, the club, his family, and his relationship with Devon. Tessmacher tells him that she was only with him for the cash. And as Bully Ray stops and leans on the ropes, she says that he comes off as a punk loner. She demands that he turn around and face her. Bully Ray walks up to her, and Tessmacher tells him that he doesn't own her and that it's over. As she leaves, Bully Ray grabs her arm and the mic from her. He refuses to face her and says that she's not at fault for his losing the world title or the destruction of Ace's Nace because she's too dumb to cause all that to happen. Bully Ray says that she was only good for something that can be easily implied as, quote unquote, giving up ass, and that she failed at doing that. Bully Ray says that he wishes that he was with Hogan's daughter. He tells Tessmacher that he could pile drive her, but he wants her to deliver his message. Bully Ray says that everyone is going to feel his demented wrath. He finally turns to face Tessmacher and says that it's going to get ugly. Then he dismisses her. This was a good segment that reflected well the recent change in Bully Ray's character. Bully Ray was effective as always, but the only negative that he gets is mentioning Hogan's daughter. There is no reason to be referencing that chick because the old man is gone. There should be no reminder of one of the worst decisions that TNA ever made. Note to TNA, you have the best heel in the business. He doesn't need that music playing in the background because it takes away from what he's saying. Tessmacher was passable on the mic, but we don't pay attention to her for her mic skills, now do we? It'll be interesting to see where this heads. Maybe Tessmacher will return to Bully Ray and rejoin him in order to help him deliver his message. It's either this or go back to a failing women's division, so she would be better off doing this. So then we see the second segment of the rise of Magnus. Magnus talks about being over in the UK earlier in the year and tells anyone who thought he wouldn't be to fuck off. He recalls being asked by Sting to join the Main Event Mafia even though he had never been a world champion. Magnus says that the point of being in the group was to prevent him from becoming a bigger individual in the company. So then we see Dixie Carter backstage with Ethan Carter III and Rockstar Dud. Ethan questions her decision to put him and Dud in the ring against Sting and Jeff Hardy and doubts that they can win because Dud is a shrimp and their opponents are veterans. Dixie says that Magnus was able to defeat both of them despite that fact. That was followed by some incredibly contrived dialogue that was said just to work in the lame catchphrase. Dixie says that she will handle it. This was a nothing segment. Pointless. So then we see Sting and Jeff Hardy backstage. Sting says that he's excited about going after Ethan and that Hardy has his chance to get back at Rockstar Dud for pushing the latter over. He says that by teaming up with Hardy, he gets a chance to, quote unquote, mark out. That's right, TNA. Make sure that the casual viewer has no idea what Sting is saying. Hardy says that he doesn't have the head to wrestle because he's still bothered by not getting to talk to Dixie. Sting tells him that she will hear him out and that they should focus on the tag team match. Hardy agrees. So then we had the Monsters Ball match. Dumbass Joseph Park versus Bad Influence. Don't care. Not because the match sucked, which it did. The storyline sucks. So then we see the third segment of the rise of Magnus. Magnus talks about the Bound for Glory series propelling him to championship contender status and the bitter disappointment of losing to AJ Styles in the final match. He mentions beating Sting at Bound for Glory and not needing any of the other Main Event Mafia members to put him in the spot that he's in now. So then we had the women's match. Lady Tapa accompanied by Gail Kim versus ODB. Before the match, Gail gets on the mic and says that Madison Rayne made her look bad last week. She turns to Tapa and asks her why that happened, but Tapa says nothing. Gail says that Madison pinning her was luck and that since ODB got into her business, she has to deal with Tapa. Terrible match. The match ends with ODB charging the corner and eating a boot from Tapa. Tapa pulls ODB by the legs in front of the corner and goes to the middle rope. She comes off, but ODB rolls out of the way, causing Tapa to land on her ass. ODB delivers a series of chops, comes off the opposite ropes, and collides with Tapa in the middle of the ring. ODB comes off the ropes, ducks a punch by Tapa, comes off the opposite ropes, and crashes into Tapa again. ODB attempts an awkward drop kick, but Tapa stays upright. ODB whips Tapa into the corner, and as she crushes her, Gail slides her title belt into the ring. The referee picks up the belt and looks for someone to take it. ODB picks Tapa up, but Gail gets on the apron and uses the ropes as leverage to push Tapa down on top of ODB. Then Tapa picks ODB up and delivers the fireman's carry stunner to get the 3. The winner of the match is Lady Tapa. This is Tapa's 3rd match, and she isn't improving. It didn't help that she needed Gail's help to win. The so-called enforcer is not supposed to receive assistance from the woman that she's protecting. As far as Tapa's status now, TNA needs to maximize her positives, however few she may have, and minimize her negatives so that she can look better in the ring. As that happens, she can work on her negatives on her off time so that she can become more ring competent. She needs power maneuvers that she can do to set up her finisher so that she can look dominating, because she hasn't been that. Meanwhile, Gail calling out Madison likely means a match between the two next week. Nobody cares. So then we see Chris Sabin and Velvet Sky backstage. Velvet puts Sabin over for making her Christmas a good one. Sabin says that their relationship will be better in the new year than it was in the previous one. That is Velvet's resolution. But Sabin's resolution is to have Velvet help him regain the X Division title from Austin Aries next week, since he blames her for his losing the belt. Velvet tells him that she can't do that, so Sabin says that he'll get a chick who will and leaves. The Sabin Velvet storyline hasn't progressed the way that it should have, but there is a bigger issue. No Austin Aries in this segment. No Austin Aries on this show. No Austin Aries at Final Resolution. We haven't seen Aries on Impact since he won the title. Yet here is another random X Division title match with no build. TNA has made the result of this match that obvious, haven't they? So then we see the final segment of The Rise of Magnus. Magnus talks about Dixie Carter being the only one to see his championship potential. He says that she had a mental lapse by thinking that Hardy was her man. But during the tournament final, his rejection of her allowed her to see that Magnus should have been her choice to be world champion from the start. Magnus says that he and Dixie will be together forever. This Rise of Magnus should have just been one segment instead of 4, so that everything said could be consumed at one time. The build for the Magnus AJ Styles unification match should have started on this show. Magnus mentioned Styles during these segments, but the only references were the Bound for Glory series final match and Styles on a magazine cover. Magnus should have been on the show, and he should have addressed Styles directly about whom the real world champion is. Where was the reaction from Styles to Magnus winning the title? We should have seen that. TNA is making the same mistake with this that they did with delaying the build for the Bully Ray Styles match for Bound for Glory. No excuse for this. So then we see Sting, Jeff Hardy, Ethan Carter III, and Rockstar Dud come to the ring, and as they wait for the match to start, Dixie Carter appears on the big screen. She finally makes the so-called big announcement and says that there will be a coronation next week for the new champion Magnus. Then she says that the main event is now a handicap tag team match and that the glorified jobbers will be teaming up with Ethan and Dud. Dixie just continues to amaze me when she has big news to say. It's about as memorable as the aftertaste from a fast food meal. So then we had the main event. Sting and Jeff Hardy versus Ethan Carter III, Rockstar Dud, and the Glorified Jobbers. Another terrible match. The only significant thing that happened was Ethan rolling up Sting for the pin. It furthers the storyline between the two as far as whether Ethan can cleanly beat Sting on his own rather than benefiting from a cheap roll-up. After the match, Hardy grabs the mic and apologizes for his performances the last 2 weeks. He says that Sting is the reason he became a wrestler. However, Dixie has caused him to lose what makes him able to tick in this business. Hardy says that the politics have become too much for him to deal with. Sting tells Hardy to listen to the fans chanting his name, but it doesn't do anything. Sting senses what he's about to say and tells him not to, but Hardy says it. He quits. Hardy thanks his Colt, removes his shirt, removes his arm guards, hugs Sting, and leaves. Show ends. After seeing Hardy crash on the ramp after being pushed off that ladder last week, an injury angle would have been a better sell, because it would have been more believable. Instead, this leaving the company angle has already caused some to think that he will return to the traveling circus. Hardy has work visa issues stemming from his drug charges that will prevent him from being on TNA's upcoming UK tour for a second consecutive year. However, the fans thrive on speculation as far as leaving the company goes. It continues with AJ Styles. It has just started with Jeff Hardy. Could it involve Austin Aries? I would say no, but TNA is doing nothing with him right now. Yes, he will be on the UK tour, but how will he be used? Going over there and doing nothing is worse than not going. I'm Tazmart 2002, and that was my TNA Impact Analysis for December 26, 2013. If you're listening to me on YouTube, please leave your comments below, click the like or dislike button, and if you subscribe, I'd really appreciate it. If you listen to me on the Wrestling News Talk Facebook page, you can leave your comments below and click the like button if you like what I've been saying. If you have any questions or comments for me about TNA or wrestling in general, you can get at me on Twitter, Tazmark2002, that's Tazmark 2002. And if your comments exceed the 140, get at me with an email, Tazmark2002@gmail.com. And be sure to listen to the TNA Impact review that I do with Chuck P live every Sunday morning at 11 o'clock Eastern Time on Chuck P's YouTube channel. Also, check out his channel as well as our brother Carl Cleveland's YouTube channel. Terrible show. Bully Ray and Tessmacher was the highlight, but no initial Magnus AJ Styles build, no Aries, and no Rude Angle continuation accompanied a big mess of nonsense. You can hate him. You can crap on him. You can say he was a terrible performer. But you wouldn't be watching TNA if it wasn't for him. TNA is the company that we want to see improve. TNA is the company that we want to see make their 3 key divisions relevant again. TNA is the company that we want to see become competitive with the traveling circus. If you want those things to happen, then like him or not, you can't deny that he is the reason that you want those things to happen. There wouldn't be a TNA if it wasn't for Jeff Jarrett. Remember that. I'm Tazmart 2002. Gone.